All right, looks like people are starting to log in. Good morning if you're in the States. Good evening if you're in Armenia. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We want to give everybody a chance to get logged in. If you can start just saying hello in the comments section, I want to make sure that you can hear me and I could see you, or that I could see your comments and you could see and hear me, I should say. Get started in just a few minutes. Okay, I know it took a little bit for the link to get out to everybody. I see a few people are starting to log in. Just give it another minute or two and then we'll get cranking. Okay, cool. So I was just able to pull up the other window so I could see people are starting to put some likes, and feel free to put some comments as well. If you didn't already ask some questions, you could put your questions in the comments box. I'm going to talk for just a little bit and then really want to spend as much of the time as possible answering all your questions. I know this is trying times with the COVID-19 pandemic, so really want you guys to get as much out of it as possible. So with that said, I'll keep an eye on the comments here, and why don't we get started? It's my first time kind of doing it in this format where I'm just all alone on Facebook Live, as opposed to kind of all of us together in a Zoom meeting or some webinar format. So it's a little different, but we'll make the best out of it. So let's see. Let me introduce myself. My name is George Bandarian. I was born and raised here in LA. I live here with my wife and two kids. I have two boys. We have a third on the way who's set to arrive in exactly 1 month on June 26th, Friday, June 26th. So that should be exciting. Uh, yeah. Um, so let me share a little bit about the session that we have today. They asked me, Greg and the Sona and the Beeline and BANA team asked me to kind of share a little bit more about my experience. Usually I like to teach a lot about early stage startups, and I'm an angel investor, I'm a founder coach, and I'm a certified lean stack mentor, and I teach a lot of what are the mistakes that entrepreneurs make at the early stages that prevent them from getting traction and fundraising. But what they asked me to do was, hey, that's great, but share your experience. People want to hear your experience. And so when I've done that, I usually share about the successes and growing the company and selling it. But I got inspired to do one of these kind of like failures talks. What were my failures, my false beliefs, my mistakes that I made as a young entrepreneur. And so this is the first time I'll kind of be sharing some of those. So I think I'll do that for about 15-20 minutes. And I'll keep an eye on the comments and questions. And then from there, we already got in about like 10 or so questions in advance. So I'll take a look at those. I'll start off answering those and then move on to any new questions that have come in. So that's kind of the format for today. So I introduced myself a little bit, like I said. So so let me take you back to the start of my entrepreneurial journey. So I'll take you back exactly 20 years to May 2000. I had just graduated with my bachelor's from USC in business with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. I was 20 years old. So I basically like skipped 2 grades. I'd started school a year early, and then I finished the 4-year program at USC in 3 years. I had a 4.3 GPA in high school. I had a bunch of advanced classes and extra credits and summer classes. And I say all this because it's important for you to have the context. So here I was at age 20. I had my bachelor's, and I thought I had the Midas touch. I thought because everything I touched in life, it turned into gold. I was great at grades, at school. I was working out, sports, I was good with the girls. So I thought, hey, I graduated, I'm going to, I had this family business, I'm going to take over, and I'm going to be a multimillionaire in a year or a couple of years. I'm going to be a millionaire in a year and a multimillionaire in a couple of years. And then, the realities of the business world just smacked me right on the face, hit me to the ground. And that kind of started the journey of, realizing that you could control things like working out in your body and your grades by studying hard, but the business world was a little bit different. It's a whole different animal. In those early years, those first 10 years, from 20 to 30, it was difficult. I mean, we didn't have what you guys have today. Today you have all of the best practices, the tools, the cost of software and software development has come down. Everything has changed. Entrepreneurship is much more encouraged, supported. There's back then there was no accelerators. Like there was really no accelerators. There wasn't as many VCs. Obviously there was no ecosystem in Armenia at that time. It wasn't as big here in LA. So it was a world. It feels like it was a different era at that time. So I felt a lot more like I was on an island. And that's part of kind of what's inspired me now that I've had my exit, to work with the next generation of entrepreneurs, whether it's from here or from Armenia, is really, I don't want anybody to feel what I felt, kind of feeling like you're alone on an island. And although there's support here and there, it's like, what do I really do? And a lot of what I found is that there's generally one thing you need to be doing, and entrepreneurs make the mistake of trying to do too many things or getting overwhelmed. The product, the market, the competitors, the marketing, and there's generally like each week there's like one thing to be doing. So that's kind of tip number one is, I got overwhelmed a lot myself personally, and kind of like trying to do too many things. But it's important to say no to a lot of things and figure out the single most important thing you need to do, which generally for an early stage startup has to deal with one of three things. It's related to a goal, but it's not just achieving a goal, but it's usually one of three things. It's either de-risking the business, so being clear what your risks are and de-risking it. Because as an investor, what I look for is what are the risks with this. Um, so you're either de-risking, or you have an assumption. You need to validate that assumption, especially you want to validate your riskiest assumptions. Or third, you have a constraint in your business, and that constraint is holding you back from achieving problem solution fit or product market fit, and you want to be able to solve that constraint. So generally it's one of those three, and there's only one thing you should be working on in a lean sprint. So we teach kind of the lean stack methodology for finding problem solution fit. So I have a couple programs with that. I have two programs that are launching here in the next 30 days. So I have the kind of the one for existing startups and the one for aspiring founders. And we'll talk more about it. The one for existing startups is for existing startups. So it's a virtual online kind of rolling cohort program. And then the other one is for aspiring founders. So anybody that's just wanting to get started, that they have the passion, they want to be in a startup, they want to learn, but they're not currently in one. They don't have an idea, they don't have a team, but they want to jump in. And so we've created this amazing experiment to democratize entrepreneurship. And if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to talk more about that as well. But what I was saying is these two programs, they use the same methodology, which is how you find problem solution fit, which is getting early traction, going from 0 to 1 customers and then 1 to 10 customers, and going to at least 10K of MRR, which lets you kind of raise your pre-seed round. Because right now you're not going to raise pre-seed without having customers and some ARR. It's going to be very difficult. So what I was saying is we structure it as lean sprints. So not agile sprints, although it's similar, but the lean sprint is where, over a 2 or 3 week period, we identify what's the single most important thing we need to go do, and then work on that, achieve that, and come back, have a meeting, discuss what happened. Did we accomplish it? Did we validate or invalidate that assumption or that goal? And now what do we do next? So that was kind of like tip number 1. Let me check, see if there's any comments or questions, and make sure everything is going good. Looks like it is. All right, cool. So let's go back to my experience. So I said I was going to take you back to when I was 20 years old, and then I jumped forward a little bit. So let's go back to when I was 20 years old and I started this process. And I have a couple notes on what I want to talk about. So, all right. So I'm just going to go through some of what I would consider my false beliefs, mistakes and failures. Hopefully it'll be helpful for some of you. So the first one is, what's your MTP? And so let's talk about that. MTP is massively transformative purpose. MTP, massively transformative purpose. So when I started, I took over a business. It was a family business. It wasn't a tech business at that time. I turned it into a tech business. But I ended up getting shackled to it. I ended up getting tied to it or handcuffed to it for 18 years, which is a very, very long time. So what I would say is, instead of me getting clarity first on what are my dreams, what are my passions, what is the meaning of life, like why was I here, how am I meant to make the world a better place, I didn't ask myself those questions at that time. So I had this opportunity, I jumped at the opportunity, and then I kind of got stuck with it for a long time. Now I'm grateful for the experience. I learned a lot. I made um, a lot of great connections. I obviously built wealth, and but I would just encourage all of you guys, especially right now, as we're in the middle of this pandemic. You really have to, if you have a business, you really have to look at it and say, is this what I want to do for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years? Like, was the pandemic, you always have to look at the positive side of things, right? Like, I've been watching the Michael Jordan documentary, um, The Last Dance, and last night in the episode I was watching, he says, what his dad taught him is to take the negative and turn it into a positive. His whole life has been taking the negative, turning it into a positive. So, um, so it's like you got to ask yourself, are you, I don't know why I said that. I don't know where I was going with that. But I think what I was going to say was, yeah, so figure out what your massively transformative purpose is. Why were you put on this planet? Oh yeah, does your startup, does what you're working on right now, is it going to be $1 billion company or whatever you want it to be? Are you committed? And if not, oh, that's what I was going to say. The pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. Look at the positive. So maybe that was put to make you a better person. Maybe it's part of your relationship with COVID-19 is for you to reevaluate what's important for you in your life and think about how you want to spend your time. And if you fall in love with your business more because that's what you want to spend the next 5 to 10 years doing and having that kind of impact, then great. Double down and go for it. And if not, this is a time to maybe pivot from that and go do something else. So so that's tip number 2. Get clear on your MTP, massively transformative purpose. There's some great questions around this. I'm happy to share with you guys. So when I help people with this, I think that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask. So it's all about asking the most powerful questions to powerfully move your life forward. So there's some great questions around this. 2 of my favorites are, if I gave you $1 billion to go have the impact that you want to have in the world, you can't spend it on yourself. You can't buy Ferraris and Lamborghinis. How would you spend it? What would you spend it on in terms of creating a change that you want to see in the world? Do you want to bring more STEM to Armenia? Do you want to save hunger, like eliminate hunger or homeless? Do you want to, what is that you want to do? And then the other question is the opposite of that, which is, if you knew that from here to the rest of your life, no matter what you did, you basically weren't gonna make a lot of money. Like there wasn't like there was this one path that you're gonna become a millionaire or a billionaire. So kind of like it doesn't really matter. Like knowing that, how would you spend your time? What work would you focus on? So both of these take money off the table and kind of like get into your heart, so you could kind of have your heart guide you and tell you like, hey, you know what? If I have $1 billion, I want to go work on this problem. Or, hey, you know what? If I'm not going to make any money anyway, I really want to go do this. This is what I've always wanted to do. I'm kind of in the SaaS business now, but I'd rather do this other thing. So those are 2 great questions. The third one that I'd add is, who do you want to be a hero to? So, thinking about your customer and who do you want to serve? So, so anyway, so hopefully that's helpful. We're at 9:21, and I've only hit 2 points, but let me see if I could touch on a few others. We'll go maybe until about 9:30, and then we'll take your questions. Let me get just a drink of some water. In the meanwhile, I see one quick question that's come in is from Melina. She asks, "What do you think about having a partner versus being a solo owner?" Um, yeah, so I could answer this both from experience and also kind of what I believe now. So, I mean, in my case, I obviously came into a family business. My dad had started it back in 1968. He had passed away when I was a baby. I was 1 year old. He had passed away, so my mom had taken over the business. This is in 1981. My mom had just gotten here. They had met, gotten married, and had me, and then my dad had passed away. So my mom was basically a teacher from Iran, and she was left with, my dad passed. She was left a widow with this baby and this business. She didn't know anything about business, so she did an amazing job running it and getting accounts like Disney and Federal Reserve Bank and Dole packaged foods when I was a little kid. And so when I started going to high school, I started to get more involved. And then when I went to USC, I got really involved. I would be going to USC Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I'd be at the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so it was a great opportunity, and my mom was my partner, obviously. But as the years went on, it was kind of like my tolerance. I wanted to grow it more, and my tolerance for risk was higher. She was in a different place in her life, and so it started creating a lot of issues. And so we went through a few years of it becoming a very strained business relationship, and it was affecting obviously our personal relationship. And ultimately I bought her out. I had to buy her out so that I could take care of her and then keep doing what I needed to do. So that was my experience. So I think it's the lesson learned is you need to have the right partners. I think I was fortunate to have this opportunity, but if I had to do it over again, would I go into business with my mother? Definitely not. As probably most of you guys on the line. But in startups, I mean, again, as an investor, am I going to fund a solo founder? Generally, I'm looking for multiple founders, right? I'm looking for 2 or 3 founders. I'm looking that they have a great team, that they complement each other. And even in the program that I mentioned, the program that we're creating for aspiring founders, we're recruiting 50 of the best EIRs, as we call them, entrepreneur in residence, that we can find. And we're going to put the 50 people into 10 teams of 5 by skill set. So, we want the hacker, the guy or girl that could write some code, the marketer, the growth hacker, the salesperson, the hustler, who's the salesperson, the designer, and then like a utility player that could just kind of jump around. So I'm not saying that you need a co-founding team of 5, but I am saying that it's hard, and you generally do. If you're trying to grow a large company, definitely need to. I personally plan to, in the next 10 years, have lots of businesses, and I intend to have partners in each one. So that's my take on partners. All right, so let's see. Nara's asking a question about what are the mistakes you wish you'd avoided. So yeah, let's get into some more of those. So the first one I mentioned was about MTP, right? When I was graduating USC, it was 2000. This was the tech bubble. Most of you probably don't remember this, but we had the tech bubble before the bubble burst in 2001. So I think I could have gone the startup route, but instead I went kind of the family business route, and I got stuck there for a while. Again, I'm very grateful for my experience, but what I would recommend to you guys is don't get stuck. Make sure you do the soul searching and you figure out the purpose of your life, and go into that direction. So that was number 1. Number 2 is we were in a bloody red ocean. So if you're familiar with the book Blue Ocean Strategy, it talks about, you want to go swimming in a beautiful blue ocean. You don't want to go in the bloody red ocean where all the battleships are there firing at each other and there's blood everywhere. And that's what our space was. So we were in document management, business process automation. It was competitive from the beginning, and as time went on, everybody got into the space. I'm talking about all the ERP companies, Microsoft, SAP, they got into our space. All the copier companies, the Sharp, Toshiba, Canon, they got into our space. Um, it was just, it was like we sold a product called Laserfish. We had 10 Laserfish uh, competitors in California. So it was just a bloody red ocean. So, one of the things that I look for is, what's your sustainable competitive advantage? What's your differentiation? When we do our coaching, we coach using the as a starting point the lean business model canvas, and one of the most important boxes on there is the UVP, the unique value proposition. So, how are you different in a way that your customers care? And then to the right of that box is your competitive advantages. Basically, what's going to make this sustainable? Do you have any IP? What do you have that's going to avoid prevent somebody from just copying what you did? So I'm really sensitive to that, having experienced that firsthand. Um, so um, so that would be number three is bloody red ocean. Um, Next one I'll touch on is bootstrapping versus raising capital. So so we were bootstrapped, and that was a problem. We were bootstrapped for too long. We weren't well capitalized. When things were good, we would use the cash flow from growth to invest in more growth. And when things were bad, we had to stop and we had to, kind of downsize. So uh, I wouldn't do that again. I would not bootstrap again. Um, Obviously, I'm an investor now. I'm all about kind of venture scale, venture growth companies. So that was a lesson learned for me. Um, I think given that it's 9:30, what I want to transition into are some of uh, the uh, personal. I'll do one. I'll do one more. I'll do I'll do two more business ones, and then I want to transition into kind of the personal side of things, which I think is as important, if not more important. And then we'll go to your questions. So so two things real quick. Number one, uh, you got to learn to sell. Believe it or not, I may look comfortable here, and I am comfortable now. But when I started, when I was 20, I was scared shitless to sell. I was just not comfortable in public. Like my heart would be thumping out of my chest, my voice would be crackling and breaking up. But I pushed through. I knew I needed to sell. I pushed through. I ended up selling millions and millions of dollars of software and services. I think, to the extent that everybody on the line is founders, if you're a founder, you got to sell. You got to take it from 0 to 1. You got to take it from 1 to 10. And at some point between 10 to 50 customers is when you could start bringing in some salespeople. So you got to sell, and then also you got to know your strengths. So while I learned how to sell, I was not a great sales manager. But for most of the time I was running the company, I was the sales manager, but that wasn't one of my strengths. I think the sales manager takes a certain kind of personality. There's a certain kind of coach and cheerleader and motivator, and I'm kind of more about like the results, and so over time I learned, and by the end of it, we had a sales manager. He was responsible for recruiting and retaining and motivating and coaching and all that. So I think you just got to know your strengths early on, and whatever you're not good at, you got to have somebody help you with that. Okay, so now I want to move on to the personal. So I think I call this mistake or this failure or this this thing that happened. Let's call it head trash. So head trash is one of the most difficult things that founders go through. In my case, my self worth was 100% tied in with the business and with AMI's kind of growth and profits. So by September, if I knew that the company was going to be growing a little bit or flat or not as much as I had kind of hoped and dreamed, then that was a reflection on me. I remember like in every September or some Septembers, I would kind of go through some, around that time frame, I'd go into some depression, not clinical depression, but like just starting to like feel bad, not, So, I think this is common where for founders, your identity gets wrapped up in the business. You start kind of judging yourself, you compare versus others. That leads to stress, that leads to mental health issues. So, I got to a point with this business that I had bad inflammation. I was inflamed, my face was red, my arms would be red, I'd be like scratchy, itchy. It really took a toll on my health, as happens many times with entrepreneurs. So, so, so this was a huge area of learning for me. I spent a lot of time. I think I've grown and matured quite a bit in this area. So my advice, based on my experience, would be, a few things. Number one, you got to enjoy the journey. It's not about the achievement or the destination. It's about the process and the journey and just kind of giving it your all. Your self-worth is not tied up in your business. You are worth it. You are unique and special, and you are lovable and worth everyone's love and worth your own love, regardless of what happens with the business. If the business fails, the business fails. That doesn't mean you fail or that you're a failure. So I think like, practicing self-love, self-acceptance, self-confidence, just general acceptance of what's happened, like COVID-19. You didn't do that. You couldn't prevent that. So if you lost all your customers, you lost all your customers. I mean, it wasn't your fault. It was COVID-19. So, you know, practicing gratefulness. I have a very extensive kind of journaling process. I do daily journal every morning. What happened yesterday, what went well, what didn't go well, what did I learn, what was the treasure or lesson, what new thing can I be grateful for today, what will an amazing day today look like, and how can I serve people today. So this is part of how I'm serving today. I do all those questions every single day. So I start off my day right, with my head in the right place, and I try to keep it there. I meditate 1 or 2 times a day. I obviously exercise every single day. So I think that, having these positive rituals, I have my affirmations on my board in front of me. I get up and I read those out loud every day. So I do all of the things that I could possibly do to keep my mind right so that I could perform at the highest level. I've had plenty of time, and I still do. I mean, even yesterday, my head starts getting crazy. I start having thoughts, and then, you just have to kind of look at those thoughts and say, okay, those are thoughts. They're not me. It doesn't, why am I having it? What am I feeling? And generally, when we're scared, it's a good thing. It generally means that there's something in it on the other side for us. So we just have to kind of like go through the fire, as I like to say. I've been teaching my boys that, and they say that, Daddy, we're lions, right? We go through the fire, right? I go, yes, exactly. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, so I think that's the main thing I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know how much this is being talked about and taught in Armenia, the importance of founder well-being and taking care of yourself and personal growth and personal development. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that because that was really important for me personally. So with that, I think I've shared a lot of what I wanted to share. I could keep going, but I'm looking at the time and I do want to get to your questions. So let's see. So go ahead and start posting your questions in the comments box, and I will take them. Let's see. Okay. All right, so here's some of the questions that have come in. So first question is, what are the most important decisions you make as a leader of your organization? So great question. I go back to where we started. So the most important questions you make are the starting point is, what problem are we solving? Who are we serving? Who do we want to be a hero to? And once you've developed that insight around how do we, what's our, right? So a lot of times people are in the how, but it's why, what, and then how. So why am I doing what I'm doing? What are we doing about it? And then the how, which is the tactics. So I think starting off, what problem are you solving? Who do you want to be a hero to? And then from there going into what we call right action, right time. So that's what I was talking about in the beginning, which is there's generally in that lean sprint that you're in, those 2 weeks, there's generally only one, maybe two, maximum three things you're trying to validate. And so I think as a leader, keeping your team focused on that, making sure you're picking the right things, and only doing that is what you should be doing as a leader. How do you encourage creative thinking within your organization? So I think that creative thinking again comes in that lean sprint meeting. So when we say, all right guys, so what do we want to do? We're moving from B to, we want to test B2B for our product. We've been a B2C product for, let's just say I'm just making something up. So what is the best way to validate whether there's a market for us in B2B in the next 2 weeks? And so that's when the creative thinking comes, right? You ask that question about what would an experiment look like? And this is when you're applying the entrepreneurial method, which is applying the scientific method in entrepreneurship. So I think that's the time to, figure out creatively what's the best way to solve the problem at hand, and kind of do that. Okay. Can you describe the moments after you successfully sold AMI? How did you feel? Yeah, so unfortunately Facebook Live doesn't let you do both a screen share and a video share. So it's kind of like you have to pick one or the other. So I picked the video. I did have a few slides for today, and one of them was this great photo that this is my home office. I have a kind of a whiteboard wall, so I had like the deal on my wall, and then as soon as the wire cleared, and like I was erasing all the kind of the strategy off my wall, and my wife caught a photo of that. So I have that photo in a presentation that I usually give like this. So I'm facing the wall, I'm erasing everything, and she just kind of caught that moment. Yeah, it felt good. It felt very good. As much as I tried to not put my self-worth in the business, no matter what, like there's a part of it that it is. I'm not gonna lie. And so achieving the exit and having like a lot of money come into your bank account is a massive accomplishment, and I felt very proud. I think like that was definitely one of the proudest moments I've had, one of the greatest achievements that I've had. I mean, I don't like getting married and having my kids are more important. I don't look at those as like personal achievements. I look at those as like the most important part of life. But in terms of like actual like achievements or maybe work related, that was probably the biggest one, right? So biggest one so far, because I have much bigger plans for the future. So yeah, it felt great, and I think that I'm not sure what the question's looking for. If you just want to get validation that getting to the point and putting in the tough work and grinding it out, and is it amazing when you exit? Yeah, it absolutely is. I was able to kind of move on to the next step in my life. Get the next house, the next car, and then kind of move on to the next stage of my life in terms of having more impact. So I sold for a number of reasons. Many of the ones we're talking about, we were a reseller, we didn't have IP, we weren't venture scale, we were in a bloody red ocean. But also, I got tired of helping companies go paperless. Like, I was like, there's got to be more to the world than this. Like, I want to have more impact. I want to make more of an impact on the planet. I want to, by the time I die, I want to have left an incredible mark on the world, not just helping companies in California go paperless and automate their workflows. Like, there's more to my life than that. And so now I have the privilege of doing that. Now I work with founders from all over the world, and I like to work with social impact founders that have big plans, that I like to focus on kind of the future of work and the future of well-being, and I like to back and coach and mentor and invest those amazing founders who are hell-bent on achieving their next level of business and personal growth. So and that's just kind of one MTP that I have, is accelerating, guiding and accelerating amazing founders doing great good in the world, and I have others as well. So I think the exit has allowed me to step into the next greater version of myself, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. All right, so this is a fun one. There's a few questions about the Armenia ecosystem. So, what is the main problem of the startup ecosystem in Armenia? Gotta take a drink for this one. All right, so I was there in October, and I was blown away. I fell in love. It was my first time there. My wife's Hayastansi. I was obviously born here. So we stayed in Yerevan, we brought the boys, we just had a blast for the month of October. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait until things settle down and we can come back there. I am connected with the ecosystem there on multiple levels through multiple people and organizations, including Beeline and BANA and the others that are there. I have a pretty good sense of what's going on, and I also have a good sense of comparing it and kind of seeing it maybe from in a different way, because if you're in there, maybe you don't exactly see it. It's like being in the jar and not seeing the outside. So the biggest issue that I see, and I don't think this is a secret, is you have all of these talented technical minds, these engineers, but it's really lacking on the business side. And what I mean by that is, I know that gets said a lot, but what I mean by that is that the lean startup 10 years ago, it came out, it taught us some great things, but unfortunately, one of the wrong things it taught us that some people still do, especially in ecosystems like Armenia, is it said, hey, go build an MVP and put it in your customer's hands. Well, you tell that to a bunch of engineers, they're going to go spend the next year building the product, and it's never going to be good enough. And then they're going to, not be comfortable putting it into the customer's hands. And, or after a year, they finally go do that. Whereas what we teach is, come up with an idea, and before we go write a single line of code, we're going to put it in the customer's hands, right? So we're going to craft an offer. We're going to get clear. First, we're going to do customer discovery. After we do discovery, then we're going to put it in. Then we're going to do customer validation, which is basically pre-selling. So we're not going to start building anything until we have pre-sold from 1 to 10 customers to know that we have something that customers actually are willing to pay for. Otherwise, what's the point of going to build it? And so I think that mentality, which is very common here, um, and that's, by the way, how you raise money is you don't raise money by going and telling an investor, hey, look at this great MVP. You raise money by telling a investor, hey, I went and I pre-sold these 10 customers at $200 a month each. I have no product. I just showed them this 3 slide PowerPoint prototype, and they bought. I'll put money on that right now, um, because you validated that there's a market, and you've shown me that you're willing to go talk to customers and get customers signed up. So I think that's a problem everywhere with entrepreneurs, but it's a bigger problem in highly technical ecosystems. Like the um, engineering minded ecosystem in Armenia. What type of startups will succeed in Armenia and why? And by the way, just so on this point in the prior one, what type of startups will succeed in Armenia and what's the main problem? So I think that's where, at least what I'm doing to help solve that problem is be a bridge. I think a lot of the programs are there in Armenia and try to help and then kind of ship them off somewhere to Europe or Silicon Valley or, you know, and what I think is the approach needs to change where, like, at least what I'm doing is you're there, I'm here, I'm gonna help you, I'll help from here. Um, we have construction at our house and they just started, so give me a second. All right, sorry about that. Um, yeah, so my model for the accelerator, for the pre-seed virtual accelerator that is available now, and we already have 5 startups in there from Armenia, and we're looking for a few more. The top ones is that, let's connect the resource from here to be able to help. I have lots of connections here in the States and in California, and I could help the startups there. And I think helping startups get customers and be in touch with what's happening is one thing that's missing. And I think that the sooner that happens, that's better. The other part of the question is what type of startups will succeed in Armenia and why? The ones that do what I said. So you could be there and go on LinkedIn and just start finding your ideal customer and start, hey, I'm doing research on this market. Let's say you have a new idea for AI for insurance. Let's just say, okay, start contacting insurance companies and say, hey, I'm a young entrepreneur. We're creating a AI for insurance. Can I take 12 minutes of your time and ask you a few questions? If it's a B2C app, you could, run different landing page experiments. So there's a lot that could be done. So I think the ones that start adopting what entrepreneurship in 2020 is all about are the ones that are gonna win. So give me 1 second. One second. All right. How to prepare for the post-coronavirus world? So that's a great question. I think that the main thing is a lot of the assumptions we had before the coronavirus about our customers, the market, the fundraising climate. Obviously, those assumptions have now changed. We don't know what they're changing to. I think all we can do is, so if you're an existing startup, I would say, make sure that you have as much runway as possible. There's different strategies for that. I recommend the lifeboat strategy, which instead of starting with what you have and what can you reduce, you start with the empty lifeboat and say what is essential and must absolutely go on the lifeboat, so that you could extend your runway as long as possible, at least a year. Some people say up to 3 years, but at least a year of runway. And then I think there's a lot of opportunities. I don't think the coronavirus. I mean, I think like it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. Right? It's a great time to take on a offense attitude and push forward and try to find new opportunities, and that's what I'm doing. I see a lot of new opportunities that have come up, and I'm looking to take advantage. What steps should startups take to be able to survive? So I think I said that. Make sure that you extend your runway, and then go revalidate your assumptions. It's also a great time to do customer discovery because everybody's home. This is going to change probably in the next 30 days, 60 days, but for now, do as much customer discovery. It's easy for people to jump on a 15-minute Zoom call, 10-minute Zoom call. Very easy for you guys in Armenia to set up Zoom calls with people in the US or Europe or wherever your market is. What is one mistake you witnessed leaders making more frequently than others? Rushing to build product. Rushing to build product instead of rushing to build customer validation. What are a few resources you would recommend to someone looking to gain insight to becoming a better leader? I think if it's like a better leader, we could talk about leadership books. If it's to become a better founder or entrepreneur, I would recommend our Aspiring Founders program. I think that's going to be really exciting. Again, we're actively recruiting for 50 of the best minds from all over the world. We're going to put you through we're going to let you pick from ideas that we've vetted. We're going to support you. We're going to provide you the best mentors, investors, and have you go through a 100-day program to validate an idea, and then have the opportunity to either walk out with gain that experience of how to do it the right way. We're going to hire a bunch of people, and then the worst case is it's a great experience. The middle case is you get hired by us in some capacity, and then the best case is the opportunity to, if your idea gets validated, then you're now part of a new startup, right? So we're going to spin out the ideas that get validated, and the team that worked on it is going to be part of that in either an early employee or like a co-founder capacity. So we're really innovating or disrupting entrepreneurship with this model. There's a number of us that are working on this and excited about it. So I think that's going to be a great resource. We already have applications open and filling up, so I'm pretty excited about that. All right, so let's see. Gaia asks in the chat, what are the best strategy for avoiding a partner or a co-founder to steal your idea and implement it apart? Wow. Well, I mean, I guess I'm sure there's some legal protection in Armenia. So if you have that contract, I did hear that there's no non-competes in Armenia, but I don't know. I guess that comes down to trust, Gaia, right? Like do you trust the person you're with? It's like getting married. So have you gone on a few dates? How long have you guys known each other? And doing some trust and bonding exercises to validate whether you guys are a good match. So yeah, so that's what I would say. I think or at least if you're super aware of it, if you're concerned about it for a specific person, then I think that's your intuition telling you something, and you should listen to it. If you're asking kind of generically, I mean, I think generically most people are not looking to steal an idea and run with it. I think they're looking to be part of a great team that could bring something to life. So hopefully I answered that question. I'm gonna put my email address in the chat box. So if you're looking for either the the program that we have, the pre-seed accelerator for existing startups, or the one for aspiring founders, future founders. Both of those you can just email me. We have plenty of resources, but just email me if you're interested in either of those. Let me know which one you're interested in. If you're an existing startup and you want to go through with your startup, or you're just somebody that wants to be in a startup, you want to learn. So those are the two programs that I'm working on right now. All right, so we have a few more minutes left. I think we've gone through all of the questions that were submitted in advance. We've gone through the current questions in Facebook Live, so feel free to post some more questions if you would like. Happy to answer anything else with the couple minutes that we have left. Meanwhile, I'll take another sip of water. No other questions? I want to make sure I'm not missing it. I don't see any other questions popping in. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I want to thank all you guys for joining. It was fun. It was a little weird being here without a lot of cues. Oh, here's a question. How do you encourage others to see your vision and push through obstacles? How do you encourage others to see your vision and push through obstacles? So I'm assuming Jocelyn's asking about the your team. So why don't you email me about that, Jocelyn? And happy to talk about that. We're kind of out of time now, and I'm sure you have some context that maybe you have in mind. So. A few people saying thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure. I hope it was valuable. Feel free to email me if I can help out with anything at all. Feel free to email me if you're interested in either of those two programs. Definitely email me. I'm here to serve my Armenia ecosystem, obviously, as well as my US, kind of my LA Glendale ecosystem as well. So this was, like I said, it was a little different and felt a little isolated, but overall I think it went well. Yeah, thank you. Have a great day. Let's come out of COVID stronger. One of the lines that's been resonating with me is, the anti-fragile, right? Anti-fragile actually means stronger through suffering. So that's something that I've been paying attention to. And so, whether you're suffering or not, or your business is suffering or not, I like that attitude of how do we become stronger through a difficult situation like we're in right now. So I wish you guys all the best, and happy to help if I can. Take care. Have a great day. Have a great night. And we'll talk later. Bye-bye.